Hey everyone, we are back with our second week of the Go Girl Leadership Project. And this week I get to talk to Anita Knotts. And I'm so excited because she's a friend and someone that I admire very much. So I am super excited to get to spend a few minutes with this busy lady. So Anita, thank you for being here. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely, Patty. I am honored to be in this program, and the fact that you're highlighting so many wonderful women in the community speaks a lot about you, speaks volumes about you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a guest here. So it's interesting that you ask what I do, because many people in the financial services world will immediately start by talking about the money aspect. I manage money. I manage a portfolio of stocks. I manage bonds, whatever it may be. And I think, and you know what my personal passions are, I believe what that has done is it has turned women away from the industry. It has turned women away from potentially viewing this as a potential career option. And it has turned women away from coming to investment advisors to obtain guidance and help managing their investments, because it's very intimidating. So I'd like to shift the paradigm. And what I do in a nutshell is I help people. What we do as an industry is we help people reach their goals, their lifelong goals. And every single person is different. Is it a wonderful retirement? Is that your goal? Is it to travel the world? Is it to write a book? Is it to send your kids to Ivy League schools, or just to send them to a school? There's so many things that clients will come to us, and many of them are, aha moments for us. Wow, that's a wonderful goal. Some folks just want to spend the rest of their lives just kind of helping people around the world. We've had that. And our goal is essentially to sit there and say, what do you have today, and what do we need to get you to in order for you to accomplish that goal? What that has resulted in is wonderful relationships in my lifetime with clients who really are entrusting of me, and that in and of itself means so much. You start to build true, deep, lasting relationships with many of these folks who, for example, they sent me baby gifts when I was having children years ago. So it's just wonderful. It's a very, very rewarding career in so many ways than just the financial element. It's a personally fulfilling career.
I love that. I love that it goes beyond, it's not a money thing. It's what you want to do with that. What does that money let you do? What does it allow you to become? Because we get so stuck on a number. Like, I need this much, or I want to retire with this much in my bank account, when that's not really what retirement is. Like, what am I doing with that? And I love that you have that discussion, and women are so good at getting that kind of information out of people.
Yes, we're very unique in that. And when we speak to female clients, many times their answer is not about what they can get out of the money. It's what they can do to help the loved ones in their lives. How do I help take care of my aging parents? How do I help my children? You know how women are. It's like you give them $1 and they want to make sure they've got $2 to help those around them.
Right.
So that makes a more unique discussion. But the bottom line is that I am starting to do this. I'm starting to talk about this career and what I do as a means to help other women, and help those women help others in their lives. So it's really more of a domino effect, and very rewarding as a result.
Which is so true. I mean, there's so many statistics about when women are given influence in education and in money and in politics, and how communities and entire countries change because because of what you just said. Women are looking to make life better for everyone. So if I'm going to get more educated myself, I'm going to use that education to help somebody else.
That's exactly right.
It's always amazing, and there are just so many studies that have been done on that. I'm always amazed when people don't know that. Like, come on, here, read these books and get back to me later.
Well, and you know what? People like Melinda Gates are putting it on the map now with her recent book, and the enormous amount of press she's getting, not only for the book, but for the work that the Gates Foundation is doing to help women all over the world. And the whole concept behind what they're doing is that if you give more power to women, and power can come in the form of money, but also, in the United States, she's talking about getting more women into leadership positions, which is very near and dear to my heart, as you know. Once you do that, once you help support women in that manner, it is a tremendous domino effect of what they can do to improve society. And what I would like everybody to know is that they don't just go out and help other women. They help society as a whole, men, women, children. So it's critical that we do this.
Yeah, and one of the things about, and I just finished reading her book, and so I'm big on Melinda Gates right now. But one of the things
Yeah.
I loved is that she talks a lot about how we try to solve a problem that we don't even know exists. Like we throw money at something, or we say, yeah, I'm going to support that. We don't get to the root of it. We don't
Yeah.
spend time getting to the core of what's really going on here, and how can we
Right.
make a bigger difference. And that's where women kind of take a little bit more time to figure that out.
Right.
And I just,
Right.
I could spend an entire time talking to you about Melinda Gates and her book.
Amen.
So many,
Yes.
so many things on that one. All right. Well, one of the things you said, because we do, for those that don't know, we do a little 4 questions, 4 answers on our blog with you. And one of the things that you said was, it was about talking about what does success mean to you. And I loved this answer because you said success means continual improvement. And sometimes that results in failing, which is a big word for some people to say. Like, I don't want to fail. That doesn't mean I'm winning, or it doesn't mean I'm succeeding. It seems like the opposite of success. So
Yes.
can you think back at a time when what is one lesson that you have learned because of something that didn't go right?
Well, I think I can think of many, many, many situations. Not getting a job offer, for example. And I'll bring this up because it's rather timely, not getting a job offer from Fisher Investments 20 years ago. And now you see how the firm is in the press for unfortunate reasons. But that's only one example. Everything in my life has happened for a reason, and everything has happened that has driven me to the current place that I'm in now. So from that aspect, it's missing out on job offers. It's, perhaps had I stayed with the company that I was at a little over 20 years ago in Chicago, rather than loading up a U-Haul and driving to California like I did, would my life have been different? I have had failures along the way on so many different occasions, missing out on proposed promotions at work, missing out on different types of career tracks. But what it teaches me is that you just have to keep pushing forward. And women specifically can really take failure in a nasty, nasty way, because institutionally we find so many obstacles are already set up against us that we say, oh, okay, this is against me too. Well, now what? Why even bother trying? So I just feel like it's much easier said than done. And I'll tell you what, having kids, I think, has really brought this topic more front and center to me, because they are dealing with it in a competitive school district, for example. And they're always coming home saying, oh, well, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that, and I've got to try out for this next week, and what if I don't make it? Okay, well, what if you don't make it? So I take them through the same exercise that I constantly take myself. If A doesn't happen and B happens instead, what then? I just keep playing it out. What is the next step? What is the next step? And in a worst case scenario, I'm still better off than had I never taken the shot to begin with.
Right, right. We can't, because when we stop taking the shot, when we
Yes.
let that fear of failure stop us from doing it, then we're never going to get to where we.
Right.
And I think,
Patty, you know what really drives me is a fear, and I'll tell you what that fear is. My fear is stagnation. My constant fear is that 12 months from now, nothing will have changed. I will be in the same role, doing the same thing. And I love what I do, don't get me wrong. And I don't necessarily mean that every year I'm looking for that next promotion. That's not at all what I'm referring to. What new thing have I tried? What new experience have I gone through? And if the answer is nothing, and I would rather that part of that answer be I did something and it didn't work out, versus I did nothing and I'm still sitting in the same chair, same position.
gosh, that's really good. That's such a good piece of a nugget of wisdom to take with us.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
but we constantly have to tell ourselves. And you mentioned, walking your kids through kind of the process that you go through when they think of that
Yeah.
thing. And I think we need to be more intentional about that. And with
Yeah.
the women who work with us, like I know when you manage people and you manage people, do
Yeah.
you do that with you? Do you find you do that with your team members too, where you kind of walk them through taking risks?
Absolutely. Everybody here knows that's one of my mantras is you've got to take risk. I've got something pinned up on my board. Getting too comfortable is the mortal enemy of achieving goals. And when I talk about goals, I'm not just talking about, gee, did you raise enough assets this year? I'm talking about life goals. If you don't take those risks, if you don't take those chances, what is you're never that the possibility that you're going to achieve anything is limited. So it runs through my veins now, and I've taken quite a few risks in my life. And every single one of them, although in the immediate sense, as I was doing it, I thought I was a crazy person. Now, when I look back on it, I would not change one thing. And was I born that way? I would say no. I believe it evolved over time. Surrounding myself with people who believed in me and who said, oh, are you kidding me? Of course you can do it. Do it. You need that too. You need those cheerleaders in your life. I'm not at all professing to say that I came out of my mother's womb just loving risk and this is how I've always been. No. But that should give hope to people, right? That this is a trait that you can actually develop in yourself and be successful in the long run as a result.
Yeah, and that support system of having those people around you that not only cheer you on but hold you accountable.
Yeah.
We both know Dr. Kathy Suber. I will give her a little shout out because she's a good friend
Oh,
of mine who is she's a great cheerleader of mine, but she's also a great accountability person of mine. Where if I
amen.
do something, she's the one to say, where are we on that? What are we
Right.
doing? And what have you, and why are you not doing this? What's stopping you?
Right.
And
Right.
nice to have those people in your life, and people that you truly trust, that
Yeah.
somebody is really looking out for my best interest, to be able to say, oh, you're right, I'm not moving forward on this,
So true.
and
Yes.
what is stopping me. So that's great.
Yeah.
I love. So this kind of goes with this, because I don't know if that was your best piece of business advice, but
Yeah.
in your entire career, like, what is the best piece of business advice that someone has given you?
Um, so if you think about the industry today, there's not a lot of women. So you can think about what it was like when I started 27 years ago. And one of my very first leaders who was, or bosses, I should say, who was an investment advisor at the time, it was a she. And one of the things she told me is don't ever fly under the radar. So many folks think, and there's no right or wrong in this, I guess it's more of a personal philosophy. There's no point in getting out of bed if you're simply going to fly under the radar, not be noticed, and just get through your day. If you're going to wake up and those feet are going to hit the ground from the bed, get up and go do something, make some sort of an impact, move the needle. If you walk into a room full of people, I am one of those people who does not want to stand with the same cluster of people for 1 hour. Move around, make yourself known, be curious, ask questions, differentiate yourself. There's a reason why you are in that room. Make sure people know it. So, and sometimes that is risky, isn't it? Putting yourself out there shows a level of vulnerability. So you're right. I do think my prior answer, being comfortable taking those risks also goes hand in hand with the fact that don't bother doing something if you're just going to fly under the radar. Make yourself visible and make yourself known.
Oh, that's great advice. That is, I had a boss many years ago who used to make me go to the local Rotary Club luncheon. And
Uh-huh.
he would make me sit at a table. It was all men. He didn't make me. It's not like he forced me. That sounded horrible. But I would be asked to go to this Rotary luncheon, and I would sit at this table, and it was all these men who were running all the businesses in town. And
Yeah.
I could not get into their conversation. And I hated it. Like, I would go to those luncheons and think I felt so small sitting at this table. And I
Yep.
one time told him, I said, please don't make me go to those anymore because I just can't, I can't get to be part of the conversation. And he said to me, that's your job. You need to become relevant in that conversation. How do
Oh,
you bring
God.
relevancy to what they're saying?
Yes.
And I thought,
Yeah.
well, that, at the time I was so young and I'm like, well, that seems stupid. But I went,
Right.
he said, the minute you do that, I will not make you go to this luncheon anymore. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, okay. I really, but it was such, and at the time I didn't realize how valuable that was to,
Yes.
it's like, don't fly under the radar. Don't, make yourself relevant because
Yes.
that's such, you're going to have to do that for the rest of your life. And if you can
That's
do,
right.
you're going to be successful. You're going to,
Right.
I always
Right.
think, gosh, did I ever say anything wise like that to anybody? Because I'm sure he has no idea that he ever said that to me, but I hope I'm
I'm sure
spouting
you
off
did.
words of wisdom like that to other people.
Right. Right.
So I was just mentioning my younger self. If you were going to write a letter to a young Anita, and you can pick whatever age you would like that to be, what is
Hmm.
something you would tell her?
Find your voice and use it.
Mm,
Find something that you believe in and speak up. Use your voice. Use your voice to help others, and use your voice to help others who are not as comfortable using their voice. It comes from, and I hate bringing up this story because it sounds so, kind of, oh, woe is me, but I, like many other children at the time, were bullied, right, in high school. And I think, honestly, Patty, that's where it stems from. It was such an awful feeling that now, all of these, 35 plus years later, I am all about making sure that you're speaking up, and many times speaking up for those who are not represented very well in our society. That could be women, that could be children, that could be so many. I mean, so many folks could identify themselves as being underrepresented or just not, back in high school, it was like the popular kids, right? So there's an adult version of that, and you and I both know it. And it's speaking up and really stand up and be counted, or whatever that phrase is. I think that that's critical. And as usual, I'm focused on women and making sure that they're doing the same. We have a lot to offer to pretty much any conversation. The table that you were just mentioning you were sitting at, you had something to offer there. And once you found your voice and used it, it was probably more of a rewarding experience.
yes.
And that's what I would like. And even in my professional development groups and things like that, this is a very, very popular and front and center topic for me personally.
Is helping women find that voice and being able to,
Yeah,
because so many, and it's amazing to me because I sometimes think it's 2019 and
right.
why do I still, because I still feel like that little girl sometimes, that like I shouldn't be here, it's that imposter syndrome that kind of sneaks in,
Right,
and then you say, I'm not, instead of being louder, I'm going to get more quiet and
right.
doing the opposite. I always think
Yeah.
it's really, I have a client of mine who actually wrote a book where she asked women leaders to write letters to their younger selves. And this book is, I like read it all the time as an adult. It's really meant for teen and tween girls. But
Hmm.
because we need to be constantly reminded of that, what would we tell our younger self? And let's do it now.
Yeah.
Like, let's not.
Yeah. And you're going to sense a common theme here because your questions are perfect because every single one ties into the one you just asked me, right? If you're not using your voice, you're flying under the radar. So it's like every single person has strong feelings about something, has strong opinions about something, and they have those feelings because of their own kaleidoscope, their own background. They bring something different to the table. So I think we're all missing out collectively as a society if we're not opening up the forum to listen to everybody. And I know I'm saying women a lot. Obviously, I mean everybody, but it's just women who tend to be silenced more often. And by the way, it's not even to say that I'm so perfect in this. I still sit in a boardroom with a bunch of men at times, and I'm just kind of like, wait, why am I here? Why am I here? I have to remind myself, and then it goes back to the conversation you and I, the presentation from earlier today about that inner critic.
Mm-hmm.
You almost have to say, stop it.
Right.
They
I'm not
feel you
listening
should
to you
be sitting at the
today.
table.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But I think that's good to remind everyone that we all have that feeling. Like the women that you think are so together all the time, we all
yes,
have those moments of self-doubt. We all have those moments where the inner critic becomes bigger than we want it to become. And it's knowing
that's critical.
when
Yes,
to silence it and how to move forward is the key. Like there's nobody's got it all together. I don't care how
that's
great
right.
your Facebook page looks. Like they just do not and
Yeah,
do not have it all together, including.
right.
I mean, my Facebook looks like we got it all together. Let me just state that, and I didn't. I don't show any of the pictures of the before or the afters of any of that. One
Yeah,
thing I loved about your 4Qs is that you actually shared books that you're reading. And
yeah.
I am an old school reader. I read the real thing in print. I don't read anything electronically. So you had quite a few on your list, but you're also incredibly busy. So how do you carve out time in your busy schedule to do things like read or any other things that keep you grounded and informed?
I'm laughing so hard. I honestly, because my family makes fun of me for this all the time, because literally I'm walking around the house with a book in my hand. At any time I have any level of downtime. But here's how I view it, Patty. It's my own version or form of self-care,
Mm,
right? So
right.
um, certain people have magazines, junk magazines that they read, or junk TV, which, by the way, I participate in those activities as well. But reading, in my mind, opens up. It's like a fantasy world for me. Even if I'm not reading fiction, by the way, I tend to lean more towards nonfiction because I think real life is just far more fascinating than any fiction I could ever read.
Right.
Um, but honestly, if I'm not, certain people meditate. I tend to do that at times too, but reading is my biggie. That's my go-to. That's my, that's my stare at the wall and just kind of, because I'm absorbing another story. It's another story. It's not the story of my day and what happened to me. It's another story. It's what happened to somebody, or it's what happened in a place. So hopefully I'm explaining it correctly, but honestly, I view it as it's my time. It's Anita time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what self care. So many times we think self care is going to the spa and drinking,
Yeah.
but it's not. Like we need to open up that definition of self care and what makes you feel more whole. And
Well, and for me, it's reading is nourishment, but it's nourishment for the brain. And I just happen to sometimes, read a certain type or a certain genre or whatever. But I think it all links to the fact that I'm by nature a very curious person. I'm curious about people. I'm curious about places. I think last week somebody really angered me by saying, "Oh, it's snowing on Halloween. I guess that defeats the whole climate change thing." I'm like, you're an idiot. So it's just this kind of like level of ignorance about really critical topics. But then I thought to myself, you know what? I don't even know much about climate change. So what did I do? I Googled it. I literally got lost for 90 minutes reading about climate change.
okay,
And so it's like just random things. Sometimes it's not even a book. It's just that, hey, I'm really kind of curious about this. And, in this information age, there's nothing you can't pull up.
that's so true. And I am like that all the time. And it's because
Yeah.
I want to make it it goes to that being, nourished in the brain and informed. I want to just be informed. If I have an opinion
Amen.
on something, I just want to know, even if you disagree with my opinion, I want to know it's
Right.
coming from a very informed place, that I didn't
That's
just
right.
like hear somebody mention it on the radio and then suddenly that's my newfound idea. Like that's
Right.
not it. And I do that, because I write for clients. Anytime I get a client in a new category that I haven't had before, I go so
Yeah.
deep in that category that my family's like, you've lost your mind. If it's, I
Well,
had
we do.
I've had like eco-friendly cleaning companies, and suddenly I knew everything there was to know about every cleaning product we have ever used and why it was wrong. And my husband was like, "Oh my god, please get
I love
a
it.
client that has food. Maybe you could start doing that, or you could learn new recipes."
Right.
It's
Right. Right.
it's not internal. It's just that natural curiosity, like you said, of wanting to know
That's right.
information. And I think being able to carve out time in our day to be able to do that is
Yeah,
important, and it keeps us all informed.
that's right.
This
That's right.
last one's always a hard one because I ask everyone, name a woman, past or present, whom you admire.
Oh Lord.
I know.
I I go through different phases of women I admire. Sometimes it's like politicians. For the longest time, it was Eleanor Roosevelt and then Madeleine Albright. And, um, earlier this year, I was like totally into the Melinda Gates thing, the philanthropist and all of that. My current woman crush, however, Patty, is Ruth Bader, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I would say.
Yes. Oh,
Um, so here's she's the polar opposite of me. I'll tell you why. She is the embodiment of speaking softly and carrying a big stick. When she speaks, you can barely hear. Look at her stature. She's like tiny, super. I mean, she's just so diminutive. She's, hunched over. She's very old, obviously. So, and then her voice, when she speaks, the whole room has to be hushed to actually hear her. But every single thing she says is so intentional and well thought out and impactful. And it's been like that her whole life. I just finished reading one of her biographies. There's so many things written about her. And anytime she talks, it's quiet. But then what comes out of her mouth is pure genius. And I think what I admire the most, because I'm still trying to develop this about myself, it's a learning thing for me, is that she never compromised herself throughout her entire life, not in her career, not in her marriage. She had the most amazing, supportive husband, but she doesn't get angry in that traditional sense where women have a lot to be angry about, and she would even agree with that, but she doesn't use that anger in that traditional way of just getting kind of pissed off as we know it, but she gets her point across. And one of the most famous things about her is that sitting on the Supreme Court, her arch rival, so to speak, was Scalia.
yep.
And they're both on polar opposite sides politically and their belief, value system, all of that, but they were the best of friends. And I think that speaks so much about her and him. They traveled together, they did dinner parties together, they did all of these things together, and it's like that's all lost in today's society, right? You can't have that.
No, we've lost that sense of respect that I
Yeah,
like their relationship had. This we might disagree politically or on these things, but I respect you as a person. I respect your
right,
opinions. It doesn't mean I'm
right.
changing mine, but we can be friends like that. I don't know
Yes,
where we got that if we do not agree on everything, somehow we can't have this great, deep relationship and friendship.
yeah,
I
yeah. It's
feel like
lost.
problems can't get solved if I only hung out with people that thought just like me, I would
Right,
never learn anything. I would never
right,
know. I would never have to even dig deeper into why I believe what I believe. I
right.
think that is so much. Have you read her? I just saw just the other day that Jeffrey Rosen just came out with a book, Conversations with RBG.
Oh, I had not heard of
I
that.
don't even know if it's available. I just wrote that for somebody else's blog post, but it's just these conversations that I think he's had with her through the years.
Yeah,
Little, and I can't wait to read it because I'm with you. I think everything, and she's been the same person through
right.
everything. And look at the change she's made without being
Yeah.
loud and obnoxious and alienating.
The biography that I read, a couple of things stood out and they really resonated with me. And granted, you have to have a very, very supportive spouse for this. And unfortunately, many women in our society don't. And back in the 1950s, when women were of course not supposed to be Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was still Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she, you know what, she went to Sweden, I think, with another law professor or something to go research a book and everything else, another man, when she was married, and her husband was completely supportive of that. They had like an otherworldly type of a relationship, and I think that needs to be valued, respected, and they respected each other as full 50-50 partners. And apparently her husband had a really bad form of cancer as well. She didn't really put her law studies to the side, but she kind of compartmentalized things. You know, X number of hours in the day, I'm going to take care of him. X number of hours in the day, then I'm going to take care of the baby. Then X number of hours in the day, I'm going to study. And somehow she managed to pull it all off. And I think what that speaks to me is if she could have done that 50 to 60 years ago, there's absolutely no excuse for any woman living today to not reach for her own true potential. And I think that's the best thing that I can say about her and what I take away from it.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that is such a great way to end because I don't want to forget that thought. Like, I want to keep that with me all day long because you're right. If she was doing that all those
Yes,
years ago, what am I complaining about? Like,
right.
what is it that why am I not reaching for, living into my full potential? Oh,
That's right.
thank you, Anita. This was so
Thank
great.
you.
I know you're super busy, so I appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. This was my honor and pleasure, and I'm here to help you and any other woman in our community and otherwise. This is all we all kind of have to band together,
I agree.
um, and pull each other up and forward as we go.
Yeah, and you are a great, I consider you a mentor in that. I look up to you and
Oh,
how you navigate leadership in this community, and it's just so great. It's an honor to be friends with you.
means a lot coming from you, Patty. I appreciate it.
Thank you.